tough enough time speaking without it on, without it on. I think any major city police department in the country who hasn't heard the demands, the calls for change in the policing profession, they've got to be flat out tone deaf. They've been going on for months, those demands, those calls, not lost on anyone here in this organization. I think you just have to harken back to some of the policy changes that we've adopted over the last several months, and that work is going to continue, and that's where I want to bring in Chief Jennings this morning to discuss some updates to that national initiative that's gotten a lot of attention with the 8 Can't Wait campaign. Chief Jennings.
Thank you, Rob. Certainly appreciate everybody coming in today. I wanted to come in and give an update on our work towards the 8 Can't Wait and working with Campaign Zero to make sure that we are doing all that we can to improve our agency. So the national initiative that was put forth by Campaign Zero for 8 Can't Wait is something that we've been very intentional to make sure that our department is doing everything that we can to ensure that we meet all of the criteria put forth on 8 Can't Wait. None of these are absolute. So there's not a one-size-fits-all for each agency to ensure that they meet these goals for the Campaign Zero the initiative that they put forth. However, CMPD wanted to make sure that our communication back and forth with Campaign Zero, that we were doing everything that we can to make sure that we met those initiatives, and that was our goal, was to meet all 8 of those initiatives. A lot of work's been done over the last several months. I can't tell you how proud I am of the people in our agency that have been in constant communication with Campaign Zero, the work that they've been doing to bring forth policy changes and recommendations to me, and how we can meet those initiatives, and a lot of give and take, a lot of conversation back and forth. However, I am proud to announced today that Campaign Zero has checked off on all 8 initiatives, and that CMPD meets that criteria. This may seem something very simple to some, but it certainly is not. We are one out of the top 100 populated cities in America. We are only one of 10 that meet all 8 initiatives by the Campaign Zero 8 Can't Wait campaign. So this is very, very pleasing to us as a department and as an agency to be able to meet that. The community's voice is something that we are certainly taking into account when we look at our policies and standard operating procedures. So we're a progressive agency. We're always going to be a learning agency and always look to improve, and this is a firm example of how we're doing that. So as I've said all along, we have to be able to listen to the community. We have to be able to listen to what they're wanting and align our policies. We cannot properly serve our community if we don't get the feedback from the community on how they would like to be policed. So this is a big step for me. Community collaboration, as I've always said, is one of my core 4. This is an example of how we are going to move forward as an agency. So there are some things that we will be looking at further. We're not done. As you know, there's a survey that's out that we are constantly taking in information about how the community wants us to be aligned in our directives and policies. Over 5,000 so far. So 5,000 survey results have come back. It's still out there on our CMPD's website and also our Facebook page that you can go and click the link to do the survey. So I think that's very impressive, and it's encouraging to me that there have been 5,000 responses that we're going to be able to look at now and see where else can we go with this? What are some other directions that we want to look at beyond the 8 Can't Wait campaign? Because we feel like there's more out there and there's more that we can do to continue to get better as an agency. So I've committed to do that, and I look forward and I'm excited about the opportunity to lead this agency into that era of policing. So with that, I want to thank everyone for being here and take any questions. So.
You mentioned at the Safe Communities Committee meeting yesterday that the last two that the department had to check off before being compliant were the ban shooting at moving vehicles and the exhaust alternatives before shooting.
Yes.
Can you walk us through what the policy changes actually were for those two to get you guys to the...
Yeah, so very simple. As far as shooting at moving vehicles, we had some differences with the Campaign Zero as far as never be able to shoot at a moving vehicle. And we've seen incidents even here in North Carolina where a vehicle is used as a terrorist weapon to run into crowds, and some of those, at times, those cannot be stopped without being able to shoot into the vehicle or shoot at the vehicle driver itself. So we had to go through and talk our way through that, explain some things to them. They learned from us, we learned from them, and we were able to get wording that does allow us to stop a moving vehicle by shooting at a moving vehicle in a situation of a terrorist act. So that was very important to us. We would never want to jeopardize the safety of our community just to meet that goal. But once we talked that through, that was very important. So the other one was... What did you?
Exhaust alternatives before shooting is what you mentioned yesterday.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that was really basically a realignment of the wording that we already had to make it very clear. Because when you say exhaust all measures prior to shooting, we have a use of force continuum, which is a guideline for us. It's not a step-by-step process. So some of that, what we had to explain, there are going to be times when you can't go through every step of the use of force continuum before you have to resort to a deadly force situation. So once we talk through a lot of that and how that works, they were able to make some suggestions for our policy changes. We accepted those suggestions, and I think we're in a very good place that, one, keeps the community safe and keeps our officers safe.
Chief, now that the policies are in place, what's the next step for training the force? I mean, obviously there are a lot of veterans who have been doing things a certain way for years and years and years. What is the next step for you guys in terms of making sure all officers are on board with all of the new policies?
Yeah, so what happens at this point is every officer within the department, and this will take some time, that part of the policy will be signed off by me once it's written, once the changes are submitted to me personally. I'll sign off on those. All officers will be required to do an online training with the changes of those policies. That's nothing new. That's usually that's how when we implement new policy and make changes, that goes online for officers to have to acknowledge that they've read it and that they understand it. So that'll be the next step. Even beyond that, when we do our annual training and any of our training courses that we do that has that type of policy implemented into it, we ensure that training includes the understanding of that policy, of any of those policies. So,
have there been any wording changes to the duty to intervene policy since it was enacted in June?
Oh, as far as different from what we already have, the duty to intervene was actually initiated into our neglect of duty policy. So that has not changed. I'm not sure if that was in June, if that's what you're referring to.
I meant specifically the threshold of like shocking the conscience. Is that still in there?
That is still the same. Yes, the duty to intervene is under the neglect of duty is still the same as what we initially put out. So. And that was one of the objectives for the 8 Can't Wait campaign.
Paige.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. What's your message to officers now as you implement these new policies? What do you kind of...
So I've been very clear with the officers internally. I've also been clear externally that we are going to collaborate with the community as far as how we police. We are going to take a look at directives and policies. We also have the work that we're doing with the Safe Communities Committee that they're also looking at policies and directives that how we operate as an agency. And I think our officers are welcome to the idea that we are in a new era now. So our policies can't be made in a vacuum. They have to be made with input from the community, input from other agencies that we also work with, and input from groups and organizations such as Campaign Zero. So we're going to continue to do that for as long as I'm here, and we're always going to look for ways to get better. And I will tell you, and I'll warn you, that we don't just simply get input and say, let's do it. We have to make sure that it aligns with our objective to serve the public, and it also aligns with our objective to make sure that our officers are safe and that they're doing the work that we need them to do as far as our mission and vision. So that's how we take information in, and then that's how we put it back out when we determine as an agency how do we get better.
On that piece of community collaboration, how are you feeling as the violence interruption program is kind of kicking off, and how you feel the department, how do you think it's going to help with the continuous spike in crime we see in Charlotte?
No, listen, I couldn't be a bigger fan of of that initiative, and we're looking at corridors of opportunity, things, because one of the reasons is for so long it's always been a police problem, and what are the police doing about it, and the police have always said we need help, we need more. It's not just simply us going into neighborhoods and arresting people and trying to put our programs onto these communities. So when you see the city and county public leaders, public officials and leadership that we have that's taken that initiative to say we own part of this too. And so it's very pleasing to me that we're not owning it as a police department, but we are a part of it. And I'm excited about where this is going to go, because this is something that is long term. It's not let's do a quick fix and then move out. You're going to see some development and growth in these corridors of opportunity that we've never seen historically in this city, and it's going to be exciting. I think everyone should hang on and enjoy the ride, because it's going to be really good.
As for the increase in violent crime,
Yes.
just generally not just homicides, aggravated assaults too, do you see that as part of a larger trend for the city, or sort of something that's happened because of the pandemic?
That is an excellent question, and one that we struggle with every day. We see a lot of violence that's going on simply because of minor disputes. So a lot of the homicides and a lot of the aggravated assaults that we're seeing are between people that know each other. And I don't think in my 28, 29-year career that I've ever seen it to this extent, to where people are at the point of where they want to pull a gun and pull the trigger over something that's a minor dispute or something that could be settled otherwise. So for me to say it's because of the pandemic or any other reason, I wouldn't be able to predict that or to even weigh in at this point. I can assume that, but we have to make sure that people are looking at other alternatives other than violence when they have disputes.
And Chief, while we're on the topic of violent crime, we've heard from some in the community who aren't, or who believe that the funds that are being used for overtime over the Black Lives Matter mural could be better spent, put towards violent crime. What, I guess, is your response to that?
Well, I think everything's worth evaluating. I think we do have a responsibility to protect property within the city as well. And we've seen in the past that mural was damaged by vehicles, and so there are people out there that want to deface that mural. So we have an obligation to that. However, I would never want to do that over the idea. If I felt like violent crime was not being addressed appropriately, and that was a means to move resources over towards violent crime, then I would be all for that and totally in favor of that. So right now I feel like we have good resources that are doing great work out there. Our officers are working overtime in other areas, not just at the mural, but we do have availability to where they're able to address some of the crimes in their divisions appropriately. So.
Anyone else for Chief Chapman? Appreciate you, sir.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Yeah.
Good. All right. Thanks, sir. Turn you around.
Oh.
To the full side.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.